The first time Dr. Elias Varr saw the alien woman, she was standing knee-deep in the silver waters of Ulerian Ivy's second moon. Her skin shimmering with opalescent scales that caught the light like 1,000 shifting mirrors. Her silhouette was angular, with elongated limbs and a slender frame, both graceful and strange, as though the laws of human proportion had been rewritten in some distant language of evolution. Elias was a xenobiologist from Earth's Interstellar Research Corps, sent to establish contact and study the native Ulerians, an intelligent amphibious species that had only recently acknowledged humanity's presence. After decades of orbiting silently above the planet, the Corps had finally earned an invitation to the surface. The Ulerians called themselves the Velathan, which in their language meant those who remember the tides. Their civilization was older than humanity's by millennia, but it was their art, not their technology, that stunned human scientists. They crafted songs out of ocean currents, sculptures out of living coral, and light paintings that glowed for generations. Elias had studied them his entire career, but nothing in his data prepared him for her. Her name was Karinath, though humans shortened it to Karen, an approximation that made her laugh with a strange lilting sound, like waves against crystal. She was an emissary of her people, fluent in human language thanks to decades of linguistic exchange programs. He first met her during a tide ritual, where dozens of Velathan gathered in a lagoon under Ulerian's twin suns. Elias, ever the curious scientist, stepped too close to the glowing sand, and the ground gave way beneath him. He plunged into the water. Before his human companions could react, Karinath was already there, swift as a flash of silver. She seized his wrist with strong webbed fingers and pulled him back to shore. Her eyes were immense, reflective, liquid, and gold like the heart of a dying star. Elias sputtered seawater, embarrassed, and she tilted her head at him. "You humans," she said softly, "are fragile things to be sent so far from home." He smiled, still coughing. "And yet we're curious enough to keep coming anyway." Something in her gaze softened then, like moonlight breaking through cloud. That was the beginning. Between two worlds. Over the following months, Elias found himself drawn to Karinath, not only as a specimen of a fascinating alien species, but as a person. She was his liaison, assigned to guide him through Ulerian customs and record data for mutual exchange. But their conversations wandered far beyond science. They spoke of the sea, the endless living ocean that covered most of Ulerian 4, and how the Velathan viewed it not as a resource but a deity. They spoke of Earth, of human struggles, of cities and deserts, of loneliness among the stars. Karinath was fascinated by human music. Elias played her recordings of Debussy, old Earth symphonies, and even ancient folk songs. The Velathan had no concept of music with fixed pitch. Their songs were sung to the rhythm of waves, never the same twice. One evening, as they sat beneath the glow of bioluminescent flora, Karinath asked, "Why do your songs end? Why not let them flow forever?" Elias smiled, gazing at the stars. "Because endings give meaning to what came before." She turned this over in her mind, her gills fluttering faintly. "Endings, we fear them. To us, they mean the sea no longer listens." That night she sang for him, a haunting melody that shifted like the tides, filled with harmonics his translator couldn't interpret. He didn't need to understand the words. It was the most beautiful sound he'd ever heard. As their bond deepened, whispers spread among the human crew. "The doc's in love with a fish," someone joked. Elias ignored them. Science demanded detachment, but his heart betrayed him. He began sketching her in his journal. The curve of her jaw, the way her skin shimmered between violet and blue depending on the light. He told himself it was for research. It wasn't. 3. The gift of reflection. One day, Kurinath brought Elias to a sacred place, a cavern hidden beneath coral spires that pulsed with slow, rhythmic light. The air smelled of salt and ozone. In the center was a pool of black water so still it seemed carved from glass. "This is the mirror of waves," she said. "It shows what we are, not as we wish to be seen, but as the sea remembers us." Elias peered into the pool. At first, he saw only his reflection. Then it shifted. His face grew older, lined with sorrow and wonder. His eyes weary yet alive. He gasped softly. Kurinath looked down at her own reflection and flinched. Her features distorted in the black mirror. Her scales dulled, her fins shriveled, her elegant form twisted into something monstrous. She turned away sharply, her voice trembling. "I am not beautiful, human. My people see me as scarred. I was born under a poisoned tide. The sea marked me." Elias frowned. He had never noticed anything scarred about her. "I don't see that," he said gently. She shook her head. "You see with eyes of air and light. You cannot see what the sea remembers." There was a long silence. Then, with uncharacteristic vulnerability, she whispered, "Why do you find me beautiful, human? I'm ugly." Elias only smiled. "Because beauty isn't in what's seen, it's in what's felt. You rescued me when you could have let me drown. You showed me your world, your music, your truth. You made me feel less alone. How could that not be beautiful?" Her golden eyes glimmered, and for the first time he saw tears, or the Illyrian equivalent, tiny droplets of phosphorescent light drifting down her cheeks like falling stars. The mirror's surface rippled. Two reflections, human and alien, merged briefly into one. For the tide of war. Peace on Illyrian 4 was fragile. The Velathan were divided. Not all wanted human contact. A faction known as the Vrain, zealots devoted to the ancient tide gods, believed humans were an infection, a corruption of the sacred sea. When one of the human outposts was sabotaged, its oxygen domes ruptured, killing 12. Relations deteriorated overnight. Elias was ordered to return to orbit with the rest of the research team. He refused. Kurinath begged him to go. "You will not be safe here," she said, gripping his arm. "The Vrain will come for you." "I can't leave," he said. "Not without you." Her fins fluttered nervously. "My people would never allow it. To leave the sea is to abandon memory." He took her hand. "Then I'll stay." She looked at him with something between awe and despair. "You don't understand, Elias. If they find you, they'll kill you, and me for helping you." The next days were chaos. Fires in the coral cities. Riots in the tidal markets. Human ships hovering in orbit, ready to evacuate or retaliate. Elias and Kurinath hid in the caverns beneath the mirror of waves. She brought him food and oxygen cartridges, and they waited as the world above descended into war. During those long hours they talked about everything, life, death, what it meant to belong. Elias confessed that he had lost his wife years ago in a shuttle crash. Kurinath told him she had once been bonded to a male who drowned in a toxic bloom. 2 lives, 2 losses, converging in the dark. The human's choice. When the Vrain finally found them, it was Kurinath who stood between Elias and death. They emerged from the shadows, tall, scaled warriors with spears made of living coral. Their leader, Molor, sneered. "You betray your kind for this soft creature of air." Kurinath lifted her chin. "He is not my enemy. He seeks only knowledge." "Knowledge is poison," Molor hissed. "He defiles the sea with machines and names." They lunged. Elias barely had time to react before Kurinath thrust herself into their path. A spear pierced her side, and her bioluminescent blood spilled into the water like liquid stars. "No!" Elias screamed, grabbing her as she fell. He turned the spear's shaft against Malor, striking him with desperate strength. The Vrain leader stumbled back, shocked that the fragile human had fought at all. The cavern trembled. The mirror's pool began to churn violently, as though the sea itself had awakened in fury. Karinath, gasping, whispered, "The sea remembers," and pressed a trembling hand against the water's surface. The black mirror glowed, spreading light through the chamber. The Vrain fell to their knees, blinded by the brilliance. Elias cradled her, heart pounding. "Stay with me," he pleaded. Her eyes fluttered. "You still find me beautiful." He brushed her cheek, his voice breaking. "Always." She smiled faintly. "Then let the sea remember that." The light engulfed them both. 6. After the storm. When Elias awoke, he was lying on the shore, the warships gone, the sky clear. His suit's oxygen levels were stable, but Karinath was nowhere to be seen. Only the mirror's pool remained, now shallow, calm, and shimmering faintly. He returned to the human base, dazed. The conflict had ended abruptly. The Vrain had retreated. The Velathan Council sent word that a truce had been re-established. No one could explain why. Weeks later, Elias prepared to leave Ulerian 4. His team packed specimens, data drives, and relics. He packed only one thing, a vial of the mirror's water sealed in glass. As the ship lifted off, he stared down at the oceanic planet shrinking below, its silver tides glowing softly under twin suns. In his dreams, he still heard her voice. 7. The Legacy of the Sea. Years passed. Elias became a professor at the New Geneva Academy on Mars, teaching exobiology and interspecies ethics. His students adored him, especially when he spoke of Ulerian 4. He never mentioned Karinath by name in his lectures, but sometimes when he described the mirror of waves, his voice would falter. In his private quarters, he kept the vial of water on his desk. It glowed faintly in the dark. One evening, as he reviewed old field logs, the vial pulsed brighter. Curious, he unscrewed the cap, and a whisper filled the room, faint as a sigh. "Elias!" He froze. The voice was unmistakable. He leaned closer. "Karinath!" The water shimmered, forming ripples that coalesced into an image. Her face, luminous and serene. "I am part of the sea now," she said. "When I touched the mirror, I became one with its memory. I live in every tide that touches Ulerian." His throat tightened. "I thought I lost you." "You never lose what the sea remembers," she said softly. "You gave me something my kind could not, an ending. And in that ending, meaning." He smiled through tears. "You were never ugly." Her reflection smiled back. "Nor were you fragile." The image faded, leaving the vial glowing gently like a heartbeat. 8. Epilogue. The Memory of Tides. Centuries later, long after Elias Var's death, explorers returned to Ulerian 4. They found no trace of human war or Vrain zealotry. The Velathan had changed, become something more ethereal, more unified. In the coral archives beneath the ocean floor, a single carving remained, two figures intertwined beneath the mirror of waves. One human, one Velathan. The inscription read, "The sea remembers all who see beauty where others see fear." And sometimes when the twin suns set and the waters glowed silver, the Ulerians sang a song not of their world, but of another, a world of air and stars and fragile hearts. They called it the smile of the human.